it's a really good place to start because we also have a correlating cost that's up on the mountain. It is expensive, man. When we send our patrol cars up to
Oh, no, it's, yeah, no, there's definitely cost. I mean, I agree, there's for sure cost.
Maybe in opening discussions with the entity, I admit it, maybe we'd be surprised with some of the ideas that might come out of that discussion in relation to this whole idea of seeking revenue to cover some of those expenses and costs. So my suggestion would be to invite them to the table to have a discussion about the needs we're trying to meet, some of our ideas on how to do it, and see if they may have, like you said, maybe they've been anticipating.
Why haven't we done this before?
Yeah.
I'd also point out that before we weren't looking at Type 3 going away either.
Yeah.
Or being ratcheted down like it is a large part of our search and rescue.
Right.
If you decide the food and beverage tax idea has some legitimacy, and if you are thinking about discriminating between locals and tourists, just be aware that you will need to create some sort of dispute resolution mechanism within that ordinance. And you'll have no end of arguments about whether this person's really a resident or not. You know, how long do I have to live here? Is it enough if I'm here for the summer? And there's no end of disputes that will come up about that.
When you structure these types of taxes, how do you earmark what the revenue is for? Is it very specific?
It's in the
It's very specific.
It should be in the ordinance.
20% goes
If there's
to
any
the
change in that, that goes back to the voters. Like I saw at Ashland was about was it wastewater or water?
part of it was wastewater, yeah.
Well, couldn't you be really general with it and say
You can be as specific as you feel like politically you can
You
be.
could, but that was my question is from a political perspective, is that the way to do it?
It's not a legal question here as much as it is a political question of how much specificity you want to put in. I mean, you can if you think you pass it, say, so I'll go to administrative salaries.
You got to save puppies.
Good luck to you.
You got to save puppies or feed kids.
You do not have to specify the use of the funds.
Education would be way too expensive.
Right.
So it begs the question, do you want to continue on with this discussion?
I think we need to have a clear idea of what it is that we're trying to accomplish with it. I think we know what we want to do on the mountain, recreation base on the mountain. We've had an idea where we want to go with that. We're going to talk food and beverage. I think we need to talk about what our goals would be and what are we going to try and accomplish with it.
Because then you bring in the cities. Yeah. The city's going to be involved. They're going to have to pass off on this too.
Mally, is there any data available that would give the commissioners any notion of what might be generated by a 5% food and beverage tax, for example?
Well, I could certainly ramp up some numbers pretty quickly if you could tell me the number of operations. You know, specifically, and you know, Maya, her funding is going away, and it's not a big number, but you know, yeah, alcohol establishments, wine tasting rooms.
But it can't be on liquor.
It's not alcohol. When we say beverage, we're talking about coffee, juice, and milk and stuff. It's not alcohol. That's OLCCs.
Wow, that is.
Taking liquor out of it is.
Well, you know, and so, you know, there's this big issue where it's like there are a number of things that are there down in town that like everybody's getting into this game of the wine tasting room,
Right.
and there's so much scope creep going on. It's unbelievable, and so you know, you'd love to see some of that because it's becoming a bit of an industry here.
11 places.
Yeah, and it's becoming an industry. So. Yeah.
Is that like scope or hash?
The project management.
It's scope creep. I'll let you think about what that is.
Okay.
But it, you know, it's.
I don't know how close we could come to a list, but we wouldn't know restaurants, would we?
You'd have to go through the yellow pages.
Yeah. We don't have anything to.
Sanitation department,
What
health
about the
department.
Well, that's true. Yeah, we'd have to
Yeah,
figure
but
out.
they're in the yellow pages too. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could run it. It's probably not a small number.
Yeah.
It's not a small number. I'm just say
No,
that up. But yeah, if we're going to do something like that, we should think long and hard about where that money's going to go, because if it just sops up into the general fund, that's not a good use of the pain you're going to inflict.
No, it has to be, I was just saying, you could do that.
Right.
No, yeah, if you're going to
Yeah,
pass
but
it.
yeah, you'll never sell it.
Right.
But if you go the food and beverage way, then you're going to involve all of the county,
Yeah.
all of the county.
And Mountain Meadows is no small number.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
true,
well,
my gosh. And, you know, and I think that establishments can figure out their own coping mechanisms for it. It is not going to be pretty, and I don't want to do it in the confines of this room.
No.
I think that this is as easily as volatile as the wind turbine project, and it deserves that kind of airing, as painful
I
as
think
that's
it's
going to
way
be.
more volatile than winter.
I would agree, and we have to, if we're going to talk about this, we got to go out and take it.
Are you talking about food and beverage or lift tickets or both? You think both are?
Well, one angry CEO is a lot different than a room full of people.
Yeah, I mean, one affects a few, the other affects everybody. Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm saying, I think that our first discussion needs to be, what are we looking to accomplish with it? What would we apply it to? What are the issues that we think fit well with the food and beverage tax?
I would agree.
I think you can go down a laundry list. And I'll ask you the public safety.
But it's got to be, it's got to be something that people can grab onto and understand. If you really want to do that, it's got to be something that everybody can say, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
But here's the thing, if you don't want to do that, any of this, just say now, we'll stop this wheel from moving.
No.
If you feel
I don't want-
uncomfortable,
it
you guys
doesn't mean
feel,
I don't want to do this
if
at
you
all.
feel uncomfortable about this at all, because I just heard that this could be another wind machine,
It's an absolute beating.
but my approach has been from the start, the ski lift ticket situation. And the counselors are the ones who threw the other at me, and of course, it
We've all
looked
talked
like a
about
pretty
it.
good piece of pie, but...
We've all talked
Well,
about it.
yeah, we were just trying to be, from the practical
Sure,
perspective, if you're
yeah.
going to go down this path, where are you going to capture?
If you're gonna take a beating, why not take a big beating?
Yeah, exactly.
I have to say
So-
that we are being lured in by the siren call of one target, and that is not a good strategy going after. It's just not. Maybe you could send a letter up and say, hey, we're going to lose our SAR funding. What do you think about it? And see what they say, and maybe we could open a line of discussion on that.
So,
But you know,
I agree
gosh,
with that.
much more than that.
so why don't we use this
I
tack
would
then?
like
Why don't David and I, or we'll go approach Matthew and we'll talk about the situation, what we're talking about doing, what we're thinking about doing, or conjecturing, and we'd like to sit down with them and see if we could reach some kind of a agreement with them.
Well, I'm sure they're going to give you
He's
some
a nice man. And I know he'll listen to us.
Yeah. Am I driving for a food and beverage tax? Absolutely not.
No, and I can see why.
Yeah, it is a long, hard haul. Do I know that it could do a lot of awesome things if we could figure out a way? Absolutely.
And the other thing is, we're bantering around a percentage figure in these discussions of 5%. We don't know what it's going to be. This is a completely nebulous figure at this point. It could be 1%. It could be 2%. It's whatever.
It could be a rebate. Just kidding.
So, direction is David and I, or David, and we get together with Matthew as soon as we can arrange a meeting. So looking for direction.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we should have a discussion.
Yes, I think that is.
Before we head down the path of we can't come back.
And as an interim step, not to just hide behind the no barricade, could we have, although budget season's probably not the right time to do it, but maybe an idea of where a revenue, it's not going to be a small number. It's probably just swag it at $750,000.
Well, it depends on what the rate would be.
Depends on your rate.
Yeah.
Yeah, but.
Well, but I mean, I think I don't think we should put that on staff.
Or
Even-
no,
even
I will
swag
go.
it.
I can go figure, do some back of the envelope stuff. But I was thinking, it's like, okay, if you had a number, if $750,000, if $500,000 fell out of the sky, what would you do with it?
What I'm saying is, I don't think that's it.
No, I'm not there. I'm not ready for that.
We're not even that
I'm not
ready.
ready for that.
Besides that, that's something that, that's our job
Yeah.
is to prioritize. If we're looking at doing something like this, it's our job to really look at, which we were doing in our goal session. I mean, that's really, we were looking at, well, for the last couple of years, we've been looking at.
You mean I can raise my hand and say, Commission on Children and
Yes,
Families?
that's
Throw it
what
out?
I'm saying.
Cool,
I
okay.
mean, I think that's a discussion.
But to
There
say,
you go.
but to say that it's going to be a figure, we don't have any idea.
Okay, that's fine.
No, I'm more saying prioritize, like we were doing in our planning sessions, that looking at what's important to us as a commission.
And the community.
And the community, but I mean, what have we been looking at as far as things that we feel are important in the community that we're losing funding on? It looks like long-term, we're going to have a hard time with it. And look at those as things that we might use alternative funding for. So I would rather start from the base point of saying, you know, these are things that are really important that we're not getting funding from anywhere else, that we're losing funding for, and drive it that way rather than come at it from, let's get a pile of money and then apply it to something.
Yeah.
You know the list.
Yeah. There's
CAP,
a huge list.
community corrections, anything Maya and Joel are doing right now, mental health.
Well,
Housing.
There's a ton of that. There's
Housing, but I mean, that's,
there's infrastructure for
one
roads,
point right
there's,
there.
I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that affect everybody in the county, that affect our economy. That besides just the social service sides, there's hard costs that we're going to have a hard time funding in the long run, that we have to have a functioning economy.
Yeah,
I think-
and so that is a policy discussion that we need to
I
have.
truly believe it'd be a disservice if we didn't follow through on this community. We may be dipped and tarred and feather and when it's all over with, but, you know, we have to make some hard choices sometimes, some difficult choices.
So, okay, when you have this discussion, is it going to be just based solely on search and rescue, or is it going to be broader than that?
No,
At
but
the initial
that would be part of the conversation.
Okay,
It has to be
okay.
part of it. I just talked to some EMTs before I went down to see Charlene last week, and they were on a big, I don't know, 3 or 4 car wreck with fatalities, and we're up there hours. You know, I mean, this goes on. And who's the first responders? They are in the county sheriff, because there's no state patrol up there.
So the question is this something that, you know, we need to find some funding for Parkdale Fire Department, or?
You know, these are all valid questions, Les, absolutely. But I think the way to start is to talk to our proprietor, and he's had a pretty good year this year.
Catch him in a good mood.
Made money on my set of pass, let me tell you.
Oh, man.
And I want to thank you guys and gals again for all you've done. I don't think we're done with this issue yet.
No, I don't think so.
It was the best reading the packet.
Yeah. I knew it'd be the most controversial, but so we'll head down this path. That's good with you guys.
Great.
And we'll see where it leads us in